Hello and welcome to week 3 part 3 of MAA, and we're going to briefly look at throughput accounting, presented as always by Dr. Martin Roberts. Okay, so I brought you here because we've been looking at sales and we've been looking at margin. Throughput accounting doesn't really affect the selling price, but what it does do is it affects your margins, because current thinking is that your old way of looking at margin is out of date. So you would say, to get your margin, you would say sales minus all your variable costs, so direct labour, direct material, and anything else that you would say was a variable overhead would be taken off, and that would create your margin. Now, according to modern thinking, that's out of date. Is that it should be the only thing that's truly variable in your factory is materials. So it should just be throughput is calculated as sales minus materials gives you your throughput margin. Okay, all other costs are fixed. Okay, and so where that idea comes from is from what you can see off to your right, is that in Victorian times, when the idea of contribution and gross profit was first thought about, was that labour was variable, was that you would go out to the dockside, or you'd go outside in your factory and say, right, we're producing so many units, or we're packing so many ships, and therefore I only want so many people. And so then the labour would be truly variable. But in, say, my case, when I've run a factory before, is that my workforce, apart from when they do overtime, and maybe when we have an additional amount of labour, they're fixed. They're paid a wage, and they're permanently on the factory floor. So it doesn't make sense to try and vary their costs, because it doesn't. Okay. The only time that now is changing is, unfortunately, 0 hours contract actually has taken us back to more Victorian practices, which is why you can see people protesting down at the bottom, and many famous firms coming under attack for using 0 hour contracts. Okay, so what we're interested in here, though, is more the ability so that you can do the calculation, and we'll catch this up in part 4 of the lecture series for this week. Okay, and so all you've got to think about it is it's like a scarce resource question that you possibly have done in level 4. If you haven't, don't worry. Okay, what you'll see in the question is that you've got several products, so A, B, C, X, Y, Z. There's normally 3, maybe 4 at a push. And there'll always be a scarce resource, whether labour hours or materials. There'll be something that causes scarcity. Okay, and then all that you do is you rank in terms of profitability, in terms of relation to throughput accounting ratio. See how they've cheated? So throughput really is one word, but they've called it a TPAR ratio, so throughput accounting ratio. And so what you do is that you work out which product gives you the most profit in relation to that ratio, and then what happens is you make your products in relation to which one scores the highest in terms of the return on that ratio, and you will keep using all of that resource up until you've made all of the first one, the most profitable. Then you move down to the next profitable, then you keep going down to the third one, and then the fourth, until you use up all your materials. Okay, once you've done that, you've got a production schedule, and once you've done that, is that once you've got your production schedule, you're able to work out your profit. Okay, so like I said, is that when we're attempting the question, is first you've got to work out your throughput, which is your sales minus your materials. Then you find your overhead absorption rate. Okay, so that's your budgeted factory cost divided by your budgeted base. And then what you do is that you then divide your throughput by your OAR, and that gives your throughput accounting ratio, and that's your ranking. Okay, highest the number the better. And then what you do is you just keep reducing, and I've used labour hours because that's what the question's set on in the lecture, is you use labour hours and you reduce those labour hours until you haven't got any more left, and you've made them all in the order of which one's the most profitable first. Okay, and then from there you can work out your profit. So like I said, it's a very simple concept, very simple maths. I have however given you this just so that you again have something else that might be used, especially this is used in the car manufacturing business a lot, so if you want to go into that industry. So therefore I thought I'd make you aware of it. So now we've covered all possible ways of pricing and looking at margin. So we'll move on to the lecture exercises, and then we will be able to move on from there. Okay, take care.